Hi, everybody. So this is 1,329 days and so much breaking news. Let's get on and see if you can see me. Okay, so we are there. Thank you so much. Coming out a little bit late because of all the breaking news, but I want to start with Bob Moore and Leilani Hart. I think it's very, very important, and Rosa Maria Valdez Garcia. I think, we put together a meme with Bob Moore, who is the CEO. He even likes to do some of his own reporting for El Paso Matters. That was started, I believe, in February of 2020. Um, uh, and I believe, you can argue this point, but I believe that it was to control the narrative, to hoodwink the people there in El Paso and around the world, of the narrative about what happened on the Walmart mass shooting case, because I think that that was falling apart, because of Richard's whistleblowing was part of that, because of the audits, because of they made it political. They made it political by putting a narrative around the Walmart mass shooting that was white supremacy. White supremacy, depending, on this Patrick Crusius being a racist, but Patrick Crusius is not mentally able. Okay, mentally able. They did not. They picked uh, a weak person. Um, Part of them, he was absolutely there. He was used by them, um, and the federal judge was very, very courageous because he knew exactly what he was doing when he wrote it. And he said that Patrick Crusius has a severe mental health condition. And Judge Medrano in El Paso on the state case still has not scheduled a mental health evaluation for Patrick Crusius. That is absolutely revealing that this case has been manipulated and orchestrated and handled and botched, whatever you want to call it, to stay in pieces, to not let it come forward. And I believe that Bob Moore of El Paso Matters was totally funded to keep the narrative controlled, so that the people would blame Yvonne Rosales because he is absolutely implicated in criminal acts against a duly elected district attorney, Yvonne Rosales, colluding with Justin Underwood, colluding with Bill Hicks, who was representing Purchase Funeral Homes at the time, which is part of the Walmart mass shooting case, right? Um, when you really put this all together and understand it, because it's very difficult to understand it when you have the likes of Bob Moore in charge of the media that is skewing the information and the education of the case to the people that are very concerned, that lost loved ones or that were scared to death or that have to pay for the bond for security, right? For extra security because they feel their lives were threatened, which they were, and their community really shaken up in so many different ways, and their lives shaken up because of the fear of security, just to go shopping, right? So Bob Moore, being put in the position um, of the CEO of El Paso Matters, which is connected to Angela Kachurga, who's absolutely up to no good. She is absolutely connected to those that are up to no good. She's absolutely connected to Bob Moore's wife of Borderzine, Kathleen Gannon, at UTEP. So she's absolutely connected to UTEP. They're absolutely connected to higher learning, and yet they don't want to be honest with the people of El Paso what's going on with this case. And because our son was forcibly removed and murdered and dismembered and put into different locations, and including Mexico, and this is a binational crime scene, and the retaliation that we have received, and the magnitude of irregularities, the circumstantial evidence, the hard evidence that we have collected. Because of that, we have garnered an education in what is going on with the Walmart mass shooting, that it is connected because it's the same people, Rosa Maria Valdez Garcia, Leilani Hart, um, and many, many more, that are connected to our son's case, that led us to understand this, understand what's going on in the DA office, to ask for open records, which exposed that Bob Moore was illegally and also violating his 501c3 tax exempt status, which makes him a tax cheat. He's absolutely a tax cheat. And so not, that he was colluding in these open records with Justin Underwood, who represents Rosa Maria Valdez Garcia, part of the Walmart case, connecting Leilani Hart, of course, the mother of Dallas Hart, Richard's platoon leader, with Danae Katzen, with 3905 Bliss Avenue, and more, and more. There's so many more connections in all of this. But just to let you know, so the attorney for Rosa Maria Valdez is colluding with Bill Hicks, the illegal, I think he's an illegal DA, with Bob Moore to get rid of Yvonne Rosales, who was duly elected. And, what is so apparent is that everything that they were charging her with, as far as, Judge Madrano, we would say in German, schimpfing, right? Waving the finger at, and telling her, you've been firing these prosecutors, you've been firing these attorneys. We only have 50 attorneys. Well, guess what? Bill Hicks just has about 50 attorneys right now, if you check into it. And there's no one waving their finger at him. Maybe they are. Maybe they are now, right? Because he absolutely needs to be taken away in handcuffs. He needs to be arrested for what he did, because he was representing Purchase, and he is saying that he is the number one chair for the Walmart case, which is absolutely unethical. So the crimes, and then to tamper with the government documents, and him, this illegal DA, that's doing all of these wrong things, changing timestamps and everything, is colluding with Bob Moore of El Paso Matters, who is rubbing shoulders with Leilani Hart and Rosa Maria Valdez Garcia to attack Richard Halliday's case, to put out false stories, right? And you think, oh, okay, well, what's wrong with that? Whatever, you know what? No, no, no. Leilani Hart is a convicted criminal. She didn't even think it was important enough when her friend's child was sexually assaulted in her master bedroom by multiple members of her family to report it. She didn't think that was important enough. When her son's rushing over to get child porn, she doesn't think that that's important enough. Um, you know, she has a history. Then, from that, you go back and you look at her history. She violated a restraining order. Her family has levied charges against her, and she has multiple harassment. Uh, we've talked to her victims, and they are just, they're even afraid. They're afraid to even go on because it lasts for so long, the years and years, because she has some kind of connection, because she's getting her mail at Dreams Cabaret, right? So she has a connection that is, um, you know, uh, uh, full of vice, which I'll get to in a minute. The sexual cult vice, the trafficking vice, the weapon smuggling vice, and she has connections, y'all. The criminal network vice, um, and it is just uh, that bad. And Bob Moore is with her, with her, using her as a source, using her as a source on his El Paso matters, which matter to us because he has a tax-free status. It's like public, right? It's like, yeah. So he wants his cake and eat it too. He wants to be a attack dog. He wants to rub shoulders with convicted criminals, and and still get the public to pay up. And what are they getting? They're getting the raw end of the deal. They're not getting the truth. They're getting a skewed reality because she's a convicted criminal. And why is this important? Because she was used. She's the mother of Richard's platoon leader. That's why this matters, right? That's why this matters. And for Bob Moore, El Paso does not matter. But for Team 5 Richard Halliday, El Paso matters so much that we are willing to put our lives on the line for our son, for El Paso, for the victims of the Walmart mass shooting, um, to stop what's going on Fort Bliss, which is weapons trafficking, human trafficking, child pornography, the drug abuse is just out of hand. The suiciding is out of hand. The leadership is so bad. They're impotent. They're absolutely impotent. Okay, I'm going to tell you that right now. Major General Eisenhower, uh, wow, he doesn't know how to stand. That's all I have to tell you, right? So, and we have Sean Bernabe, that is absolutely needs to be arrested. Um, Clem Coward needs to be arrested. Michael Garrett needs to be arrested. Their associations, what has happened here is so bad. And the evidence is right there. What are the evidence? The evidence is that the barracks are marketplaces for illegal drugs. The evidence is a 14-year-old girl living in the barracks being pimped out, and she being the stepdaughter of the DES Thomas Kane's one of his guards, right? That the security is broken, that they have problems with truckloads of weapons being uh, smuggled, truckloads of ammunition being smuggled, and I bet you a lot of those are brown tip bullets, because brown tip bullets, uh, are not really registered because they're used for special operations. This is why it was such a big deal when we received intelligence that brown tip bullets were at the scene of the Walmart mass shooting. That's why this was such a big deal. And so, the whole Patrick Crucius uh, narrative should have been corrected by Bob Moore of El Paso Matters and other media, right? But in this case, since he targeted with Leilani Hart, who is Richard Halliday's platoon leader's mother, and Rosa Maria Valdez Garcia, who also targeted Richard's case. Okay? Absolutely targeted Richard's case. This is a big deal that he is participating in targeting Richard's case, because we know for a fact that Yvonne Rosales was bringing up Richard's case, was looking into Richard's case. We know for a fact that she was bringing forward the Walmart mass shooting case, trying to get a trial date, setting a trial date. And, whatever you feel about her, it's like whatever you feel about Trump. Really, you have to look at the legal system, the justice system, and say, what are the laws of our country? What is being broken here? And what they did against Yvonne Rosales was illegal. And a violation of our Constitution, a violation of how our country runs, and what they did to the people of El Paso when it comes to the narrative of the Walmart case is absolutely super serious, just as serious as those that were murdered, right? Those that were murdered. Because what it does is, if you have no justice, more and more people are going to be murdered and murdered and murdered. And all of these vices, I like that word today, that all of the vices, the are causing so many cracks and no accountability. And of course, is one of those victims, the whistleblower. And why was he criminally attacked? Because he was a whistleblower. Okay? And there's no other reason. He was a whistleblower, and that is the motive, what he was whistleblowing about. And we have the body count. Thank you, El Paso, and thank you, Team Fire and Richard Halliday, for sending that article. Thank you, El Paso, for paying for body cams for your police officers in 2019. In 2019, because January of 2020, they had body cams. And we finally, after 3.5 years, received the footage from the body cam. And Richard, it absolutely, y'all, he was so beautiful in it. He was standing at attention, right? He's standing at attention. He's so respectful. The cop in it was trying to mislead him and manipulate him, and he didn't fall for it. He wasn't rude. He absolutely maintained his person, his status, his position. very respectfully, and he passed all the tests. And it's a beautiful, beautiful uh, declaration of his integrity as a distinguished. Now you know why. When you see that video, you'll know why he was the distinguished honor graduate for his cycle in basic training and AIT. His integrity was so strong, so strong, even in the face of being framed, even in the face of being wrongly accused and wrongly, unjustly, illegally arrested. He maintained his integrity. And it just showed the self control that he had. And this January 27th, 2020 should have absolutely been covered by Bob Moore, right? Covered by Bob Moore, you know. So, yeah, because, when you're a journalist, you know how to vet, you know how to research, right? You think. So, this shows that Bob Moore not only used convicted criminals, a convicted criminal to attack Richard's case, to attack a whistleblower in Richard's case, a key witness in Richard's case, but that he also failed to Richard. He doesn't want to mention Lalani Hart's name because it's so tainted, and he doesn't want to mention Richard's name because he knows he's implicated in what happened to Richard for attacking um, his investigation, his search and investigation, by targeting it, and more and more. I absolutely by attacking Yvonne Rosales was obstruction of justice in Richard's case. And thank you for the open records. Thank you for the body cam. It's really, really important. And it also is a lever, okay? It's a lever, like go to jail lever, for the command, because it just pulls it down. It just pulls it down, like it's a trap in the floor to these failed leaders, these impotent leaders, these criminal leaders. It's just a lever because everything that they did to Richard was because he was whistleblowing. But they had to have a different narrative, a different excuse. They couldn't say, oh, he's a whistleblower, so we want to destroy him, right? They couldn't say that. They had to find some other kind of excuse. They had to frame him. They had to set him up. They had to discredit his character. And so they created a kin, because this canine cop is akin to Belen Rocha. They had to create a canine cop traffic stop in a parking lot. Yep, at midnight. That's what they had to do, and it didn't work. It worked because they withheld the video. And it worked because they ended up murdering Richard. But they ended up murdering Richard because it didn't work. And I'll tell you why. Because this canine stop in a parking lot, at midnight, was their excuse for the permanent GOMAR, for the full out field grade Article 15 with maximum punishment and then some, all the bullying, everything. It was also the excuse not to search for him, right? um, they had to try to discredit him. And so, yes, Richard paid the ultimate price for their vices, their crime, their murdering spirit. Um, and now, that is not isolated to Richard, right? Glendon Oakley Jr. also paid that price. Asia Graham also paid the price, just to name a couple. But now we have another very, very good example of the horrendous price that we're all paying and why it's so important to get justice for Richard. And we know that Richard's case is connected to the the sneaky, uh, plotting, colluding removal of Yvonne Rosales, the DA. But we also know that Richard's case is connected to the smearing, the discrediting uh, of President Donald Trump, um, with the Walmart mass shooting narrative of it being racist. And racism is serious. Okay? It's a serious charge. And so the misuse of that charge, I think, is so criminal. And they absolutely misused it in this case because Patrick Crusius even admitted in court that he was not a racist. And he can't, y'all, he has a mental health condition. He has a severe mental health condition. We received confirmation that he was autistic. Okay? Um, just look at the pictures over and over again. Look at the videos over and over again. You will see he is not capable mentally to uh, be what the narrative calls him to be. Okay? Was he there? Yes. Was he a shooter? Yes. But there were multiple shooters. Multiple. Okay? And he had not one drop of blood on his pants, on his shoes. Not that I could see. Maybe with real forensics. But look what they were saying. And who are they? Ernest Christopher Grant, the criminal. Ernest Christopher Grant. And Donna Sifford and Sasado. What's her name? Um, I'll I'll remember her first name. And others. What they were saying, and there were real witnesses, but there were some real setups. It was he would be covered in soda, he would be covered in blood, he would, shooting 1,000 bullets, and then to calmly go up to a Hispanic and say that I hate Hispanics, but you go up to a Hispanic cop and raise your hands. And raise your hands and say, I'm the shooter. That Hispanic cop could have just killed him right then and there. You know, uh, nothing fits the narrative. Okay? Nothing. And so this is why all of this matters so much, because we need the truth. And for them to falsely put the narrative out there that this was racism and white supremacy, and then point to President Trump as the white racist, is defamation. Clear defamation. And they defamed President Trump and all his supporters and MAGA. And, maybe there should be a class action lawsuit on that one, right? Because to use racism as a political ploy, as a political tool, right? As a weaponization against your political opponent, um, I think is so criminal. Absolutely criminal. And it clearly was not in this case. clearly. So, and I detest um, everything to do with racism and the the use the use of the accusation of racism when it is absolutely not the case. Okay, to make it, because they had to orchestrate it inside of that, because they had to orchestrate this manifesto, right? And that's why they want to leave this case in pieces, because who wrote that manifesto really, right? Because we know that Christopher Grant had a big part to play in the orchestration of this mass shooting, because he ran the narratives that even the El Paso Police Department said was a lie, was not what the video showed. And that's why this case needs to come forward, and yet they have left it in pieces. So says not just yours truly, but Loretta Lynn, but uh, Yvonne Rosales, um, Attorney Cox, uh, absolutely over and over again. This case has been left in pieces. And if that case has been left in pieces, and Richard's case was left in pieces, okay, because he was reporting that caused the weapons audits. I, I don't know if it caused the weapons audits. We're trying to find out, but that it absolutely corroborated with other reports, because we're getting that there's more than one whistleblower. It wasn't just Richard. Okay? It wasn't just Richard. It was more than one whistleblower to the weapons smuggling, to what was going on with the Walmart mass shooting, which was a diversion from the audits that they had failed and Fort Bliss failed. And now we know that Fort Bliss absolutely failed and are failing. And that's the breaking news for tonight, that they are absolutely failing, and that Bob Moore is more concerned with rubbing shoulders with Dreams Cabaret, Leilani Hart, Richard's platoon leader's mother, who's a convicted criminal, and using her as an unreliable source, than really what's going on Fort Bliss, that he could have been reporting since 2020 of 2020 he came into service, because he is a 501c3. He's like the public broadcasting, right? So he should do us a service, but he's doing us a disservice. He's dishonest, and he's doing us a disservice, and he's using unreliable sources like Leilani Hart and Rosa Maria Valdez Garcia, and he is plotting and scheming behind the scenes, and he's rubbing shoulders with criminals, those that even want to give death threats, okay? Yeah, and don't forget, Leilani Hart is a key suspect, no, I shouldn't say key, prime suspect in our son's forced disappearance and murder case. So Bob Moore, he needs to be finished. Absolutely. And what is the breaking news? The breaking news is called Iskander Day. Iskander Day. That happened about 3-4 days ago in Ukraine. Iskander Day in Ukraine. And what am I talking about? Well, here's a poem. We put together a poem for people to understand what is going on in our military on Fort Bliss. At Fort Bliss, where vices breed, illegal drugs and trafficking a sinister seed, weapons smuggling, sex cults allure, child porn, and retaliation, all impure. At Fort Bliss, where vices corrupt, our weapons compromised, our security disrupt. Abuse of power by those in command, leadership's impotence failing to stand. Whistleblowers silenced, truth obscured, injustice prevails, our trust blurred. Unchecked vices poison the air, Fort Bliss, a place of despair. And in the midst of this darkness and pain, a stark realization, a truth made plain. Our weapons, our pride meaning our volunteer sons and daughters, archaic, vulnerable, weak. As Russian Iskander strikes our future bleak, Patriot missiles, once gleaming with might, now lie in ruin, lost in the night. 400 million each, a price to pay for Fort Bliss's sins on Iskander Day. So what am I talking about? I'm talking about the Iskander missile. It's a drone. Iskander drone missile. I'm not really a weapons person, but it took out two of our Patriot missile batteries. Two of them. Blew them to smithereens at one time. $800 million. $800 million blown up to smithereens. What does this mean? This means that Patriot is something of the past. It's archaic. It means that our military is not doing its job. Mealy is too worried about lipstick. Mealy is too worried about pronouns. And I know he's retired, but this is a result of this bad leadership. This is a result of McConville. This is a result of Clem Coward. This is a result of Eisenhower. This is a result of Sean Bernabe. This is a result of our unsecured military installations and all of the vices that have created Iskander Day. Yes, absolutely a weakened military. Our Patriot missiles are now archaic. They are now archaic. What does this mean? That Israel is going to go knocking on Russians' door and say, hey, hell with the United States. I want to buy my security from you. I want to buy my weapons from you. You've got the Iskander. I want the Iskander. I don't want that archaic Patriot missile that is not running right. Richard would tell me something. Of course, Rob, my husband, Richard's father, he was at ROB, Rhine Ordnance Barracks, right there in Germany, right by Ramstein Air Force Base, right by Landstuhl, the hospital there. They're building in Miesenbach, I think it's Miesenbach, the billion-dollar military hospital again. We have a perfectly wonderful one in Landstuhl, just a minutes away. And no, they just want to waste taxpayers' money. And now by selling these archaic Patriot missiles, and I think that Poland just got a couple of them. Poor Poland, go get your money back and go to Russia. Well, I shouldn't say that, right? But we shouldn't be surprised. It wouldn't be alarming after this Iskander display and the poor performance of our Patriot missiles that other countries will go to Russia to get their weapons and to get their security. And what does that mean for us? It means our dollar will not be dominant. It means that we will not be the world currency. It means that our economy will go to hell. That's what that means. Because the one thing that we do produce, see, this is where whether you like President Trump or not, he was absolutely right. We need to start producing things again. Where are our TVs? Where are our wash machines? Where are our new Iskander missiles? Where are our new, factories? What are we making? No, we are making archaic Patriot missiles that no one's going to want. Not even the Afghanis. And this is our full display right now. This is not me. This is a full display. There's, I don't know how many articles showing this. And this is absolutely another solid evidence of the failed leadership that care more about retaliating against a whistleblower because they are engaged in criminal activities there on Fort Bliss than to think about protecting and securing that military base and defending the Constitution of the United States and making sure that our Patriot missiles get updated so that they could take down an Iskander. But instead we have the opposite. Instead of being Patriot Day, it's Iskander Day. And I think that I don't know if you're understanding what I'm saying. But, I've always been with the military my whole life. I understand the military. Richard worked on with Patriot missiles. That was what he was. That's Fort Bliss. Rhine Ordnance Barracks right there by Ramstein is also Patriot missile. Rob was deployed with Patriot missile. So absolutely understand that Patriot missile, that was a long time ago. Rob retired in 2006. They have become archaic. They haven't been updated. They haven't been cared for because Fort Bliss is too busy with their weapon smuggling, their bullet smuggling, their child pornography, their human trafficking, their child trafficking, their sex cults, their politics, playing politics, and and not realizing that they are not above justice. They're not above justice. And you saw it firsthand when Biden was giving his State of the Union address as Commander-in-Chief of the military, stood there and wagged his finger and admonished our Supreme Court justices. Wow, he must be afraid of them. It's those people that wave their fingers, they wave their it's those few people that wave their fingers at me because I want to know what happened to my son, because I want accountability for those that murdered my son, because I want Fort Bliss to be better and not ran by the likes of Sean Bernabe and Eisenhower and Clem Coward and Matlock and these failed leaders that harm our most precious assets, our most valuable assets, which are our volunteer sons and daughters, and leave our weapons, leave our security in pieces and a mess where they can't even take down an Iskander. They are archaic. This is what is leading to the I would say the falling apart. I want to say the decaying of our country. And so if you're out there and you're a veteran and you understand what I'm saying and you care about our young soldiers, and our young soldiers, they need mentors. They need mentors. That means we need good leadership. And if our leadership is participating in criminal networks, that is putting every one of our young soldiers, making them so vulnerable to either become criminals themselves or being retaliated against because they're a whistleblower or because they don't want to participate. Because in the Army, you can't just quit and walk away. Richard just couldn't quit and walk away. So that's huge news for tonight, and I think there is more. Um, but I will be back tomorrow, God willing, and we're getting intelligence in every day because people are starting to realize it, and I think this Russian success of the destruction of our Patriot missiles, I think it's a huge wake-up call. Huge. With huge ramifications. And I think that the video, and I just can't even tell you, this body cam video of Richard, of the framing of him that they used, they had to have something that they could use as their excuse to write down on their line for the GOMAR, to write there on the line for their permanent GOMAR, to write there on the line for their fill grade Article 15 with maximum punishment. It's not a company grade, but a fill grade, the worst of the worst of the worst, and fully 45 days of extra duty with full body gear on, giving him only 4 hours if he wants to go to sleep. 4 hours of sleep for 45 days. So every day, just 4 hours. And then demoting him 3 ranks for being what? A whistleblower. Not for drinking too much. Remember, he said, I'd rather burn my money than spend it on whores and blow. This is the character, the distinguished honor graduate for his cycle in basic training and AIT, and they tried to smear him. This is the character, our finest, that will make the Patriot missile great, that will develop new software, new technology, invent new technology, create new technology to make our defense weapons better. But they don't do it. They don't do it. And now our weapons are archaic. They're not cared for properly because of all the vices. The vices have made it Iskander Day. Thank you, everyone. God bless you. And I will be back tomorrow, God willing.